Hi all, I'm Cullen Haynes and welcome to Live with Cullen Haynes, Law Live, episode 74, if I'm not mistaken. And it's going to be an absolute belter of a conversation because very topical. We're talking to an industry expert of all things valuations, almost a decade in the profession, started when she was just a wee pup of 18 years old and is now the go-to sought after expert on all things valuations. And, we're going to be talking about valuations, conflict, clarity, all the things that you need to know if you're a leading legal professional or otherwise looking to make sure your clients or your own interests are in hand when it comes to property. Can you please make very welcome the one, the only, Miss Kristy Kerswell from Kerswell Valuation. How are you, Kristy?
Good. How are you, Cullen?
Very, very well. I'm so excited about this chat because let me tell you, I was saying offline, it's very topical at the moment with rates doing what they're doing. And I only learned this the other day. People tend to break up when their property goes up in value because now they've got an asset to deal with. I think you told me that over coffee, right?
Yeah.
Oh, very good. Now, what's happening in your world right now? Well, that's one. And for those of you who don't know what you do, Kristy, would love to get maybe an elevator pitch of what you do in a nutshell.
Okay. All right. I'll start with the elevator pitch. So most of my practice is expert witness work. So it essentially means that a lot of the time I'm helping people settle their disputes over the value of an asset.
Yes.
I'm independent. I'm impartial. I have a duty to the court, not to my client. And I suppose I'm quite key to settling financial disputes because a lot of the time litigation is people fighting over money, and a lot of the time that money is held in assets, and there are big wars about value.
Oh, very good. And is it a bit busy time of year for you at the moment in terms of what's
It's
happening with
always
you?
busy, always busy. Yeah.
Very, very good. Well, I will encourage people. Obviously, this is episode 74. The whole shtick of the Law Live is that this is live. It is now 12:18 on the 16th of July, Australian Eastern Daylight Time. If you've got any questions for this powerhouse, please put them in the chat box. And we are live on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, X, and you can re-listen to this wherever you get your podcast, brought to you by Legal Home Loans. But nonetheless, you've built your own firm and worked across high-stakes adversarial matters right there, Kristy. What drew you into the world of property and business valuations for all those tuning in?
Well, honestly, I just fell into it. So I started as a typist in my first role, and I mean, typing the reports was not so interesting. So I started putting my hand up for research and for, I suppose, more substantive valuation work. And it just sort of went from there, really. I just developed an interest in it. And I really enjoy the expert witness work because often you see the context of the greater legal dispute, and it's a lot of reading through affidavits, looking at briefs, testing assumptions and things like that. I think it's the most interesting part of the valuation industry to be in, definitely.
Good part. Good point. And a bit of a fun one. I've prepped you for this, but if you could explain your role in valuations, law, and life in just film titles, how would you go about doing that, do you think?
Everything, everywhere, all at once, I think, because I do so many different things, honestly. I mean, one of my favorite things about my job is the variety, because I do property valuation, I do business valuation, and so many types of property I value. I mean, residential, commercial, special use, and so many different types of business valuation I do as well. So I'm valuing across different industries, and there are different considerations that you have to keep in mind. So yeah, it's very broad.
Very broad, very broad. And I would encourage anyone, LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, put your comments in. I'll ask them in real time. And I'm endeared by what you're saying. You do wear many hats, and for those of you who don't know, partner, editor, educator, business owner, how have those different roles shaped your perspective on the valuation space? Getting them photos, I think you maybe have been in drama or something in the past as well. Would love to know, how have all these things shaped Kristy Kerswell?
Well, I think I've actually just sort of followed my interest, really, because, started as a typist, became qualified as a valuer. It was quite good at valuation, so got made equity partner at a young age.
Wow.
I started the journal that I edited really just because I had some topics that I was interested in the field of valuation, and I just wanted a vehicle to explore them further. But I think really good valuers are curious, and they're always reading, always, digesting new information about property and business. And, just, I suppose, just knowing what is going on in markets, because that's the job of a valuer, really, to essentially simulate what the market is doing. So you have to have your finger on the pulse.
Would you say because you're an expert witness as well, it puts you in a, not speaking disrespectful to other valuers out there, but it puts you in maybe a different league or a different tier than the run-of-the-mill valuers that we're dealing with just for the residential properties with the banks? You know, obviously everyone has an important role, don't get me wrong. But yeah, I'd love to know if that gives you a little bit more of a keener insight, because what you said was you work for the courts or the best interest of the courts, not the client. I think that's a really interesting inversion on the concept.
Yeah, well, I think it's a bit different to the standard bank valuation. I mean, if you look at how bank valuers work, they have to turn over many reports in a day. I think it's probably, 10, 12, something like that.
Yes.
But with me, my reports are usually more complex, but it's not just about arriving at the right answer. It's about showing your workings. So, I mean, there are considerations of admissibility, making sure that your reasoning is sound, making sure that your report will withstand cross-examination, essentially, and, having the other side sort of try and tear it to shreds.
So you're actually thinking like a chess game. You're having to think 6 moves ahead that the average valuer doesn't have to think about, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, when you're writing your reports, you're always thinking about, how would this come across in court, and, what would I say if I was cross-examined on it? So I think it's a really good place to be in the industry, because it means that you have to think about every little detail and how it's all going to be perceived. But I think being an expert witness has made me a much better valuer, because I just have to think more about my reports, really.
Well said. Well said. And, going in and digging a little bit deeper, as my friend Jerome would say in the Lawyers Weekly, can we unpack that a little bit more? The skills that you have to use as a valuable, what's a surprising or underrated skill that's helped you thrive in this high pressure, niche corner of the industry?
I think curiosity, really, and attention to detail. I think good valuers ask, why does this matter to the market? Why are we looking at this? And, if you notice something odd in a business's accounts, it just sort of, I suppose, go down the rabbit hole and follow it to a conclusion. Just make sure that you understand what you're valuing inside out, and also all of the comparable sales, your methodology. Yeah, I think curiosity has served me very well.
Absolutely. And Faraz Hamoudi, a leading legend on LinkedIn, said, love the chess game analogy, Cullen. Thanks so much, Faraz. Love your work. Feel free to put a question into Kristy as well, my friend. Love the context, love the engagement. Now, adversarial contexts, can be intense. And, we think we have it tough because we're dealing with both lawyers and accountants and the bank. So it's like a little bit of a battle there. But, how do you manage your emotional and psychological load of your work? Like, do you try and not work from home because you want to separate, church and state? Would love to know what Kristy Kerswell does in the last 10 years.
I think it's pretty straightforward. I think, to be honest, a lot of valuers are anxious about doing expert witness engagements, but I don't think there's anything to be anxious about. I mean, even when I'm cross-examined, I'm just not too worried, because if you've done your job well, you should know your report inside out. It should all be defensible. And,
Yes.
I mean, sometimes a question might be put to you in cross-examination, and the barrister might be making a reasonable point. But I suppose the beauty of being an expert witness is that your duty is to the court. You can be independent, you can be impartial, and you can make a reasonable concession if something is brought up. So I think, just do your best, essentially, and you should be fine. I think it's also important to remember that court is very much theatre, and there's a lot of, I suppose, attempts at rattling that happen in cross-examination. So you just need to stick to your guns and back yourself.
Well, right. I've got a lot of friends that are barristers and at the bar, and they talk about this court craft and theatre. And, one thing is like closing the gates, right? I put it to you, and then they get you into a corner, and that whatever you say makes you kind of look with egg on your face. Do you have any tips to the trade, or anyone who is an expert witness, how to not get boxed in, or sometimes it's inevitable?
Well, I think when that happens, you've probably done something wrong, or there probably is. Yeah, I mean, you're probably at fault, to be honest. So I guess my advice is just write good reports, know what you're talking about, and I suppose think about how how your report could be attacked, or things that you haven't taken into consideration, weaknesses in your opinion. And I think you should just be honest and upfront about those weaknesses, because it really helps with your credibility.
Absolutely. Well, Ms. Kerswell, I put it to you that this is a very illuminating podcast so far, and we're already getting lots of engagement, lots of people tuning in. So thank you if you're tuning in. This is live. Thank you if you're rewatching or re-listening. And we're getting halfway through the stream now. What do lawyers and professionals often misunderstand about valuations in litigation? Any myths you'd like to proverbially bust right now, Kristy?
Well, I think a lot of lawyers tell me that they don't really understand how their valuers have arrived at the figure, and that it seems very much subjective to them. But I think that if you're receiving reports like that, your valuers are probably not doing the best job that they could be, because their reports should have very defensible, very sort of detailed reasoning in them. And I think it's a bit of a cop-out to just sort of arrive at a figure and not adequately back that up.
Yeah, like arbitrarily, you mean? Like, this is kind of like
there's a lot
what I
of
think.
there's a lot of that. I see a lot of that, a lot of in my experience. And well, it's good to have experience and to draw on it, but you should also be drawing on the market. You should be drawing on textbooks, the international valuation standards, all of those things. So you should be able to tether your opinion and your experience to something more substantive.
Very well said. Very well said. And switching gears a little bit, are there any passion projects or innovations you're exploring about at Kerswell Valuation that you can share our viewers and listeners?
Yeah, well, I'm actually writing a handbook for lawyers. So it's going to be about valuation and the law. I often joke that so much of litigation is essentially people just fighting over money, and a lot of that money is held in assets. So there's a very vast body of case law that has formed around property and business valuation. And a lot of it really differs across various jurisdictions and practice areas. So for instance, there's a lot of family law specific case law to do with business valuation especially. So I'm just really interested in it. And I think just because lawyers have so much on their plates, it's hard for them to be across all areas of the law. So looking forward to putting together a useful resource that hopefully practitioners can just refer to without having to, do all of the research themselves.
Fantastic. Fantastic. And what's been one of the most unusual or memorable requests you've had in your career?
Oh, they're all family law related, just people owning odd things that they need to put a value on. I've had Birkins, quite a few of those, and there are always arguments about authenticity. So, yeah.
Very good. Very good. And has there been any influential mentors in your life so far? And would you like to shout them out, and why are they been so impactful?
Yeah, well, I'd say my last boss. I mean, he really taught me everything that I know, and I did start off as a typist at my last firm, so he just really gave me so many good opportunities and really sort of nurtured and developed me. So I'm very grateful for that.
That's fantastic. Fantastic. And if you could wave a magic wand and change something in the legal or valuation profession, what would that change be? And you can be as stark and honest as you want. This is a safe space, Kristy, and our viewers and listeners want to hear the unfiltered truth.
Oh, I don't know. I think, well, in the valuation profession, in the subset that I work in, which is expert witness work, I think everybody uses the same handful of people, and it means that they have become very busy. And also it means that there's sort of a lack of fresh perspectives in valuation, because I mean, there are a lot of different ways to interpret theory and methodology, and there are just a lot of different ways to approach, for instance, a business valuation. So I guess it would be nice to have some more differing perspectives, because I think it would produce better valuations and also better arguments about value, which I find fascinating.
No, fantastic. Absolutely. And what's one lesson you'd like to pass on to young professionals entering the legal field or the valuation space right now, especially thinking about launching their own firm as well? You might have some insights there.
Yeah, well, I think just follow your curiosity, find good mentors, work for people that you respect if you can. Because I think that where you start it really shapes you, and it shapes who you are as a professional, especially early on in your career. I think also just put your hand up for things, put yourself out there. Since going out on my own, I mean, I've been so shocked about how supportive people are, and, how many people are willing to give me a go. And I'm very grateful for that. But it was surprising to me. It was, in some ways harder than I thought it would be, but also in some ways a bit easier.
Very, very, very true. Did you find that you had to, or obviously on the platform or LinkedIn, network a lot, or you found that once you did your first deal or matter, kind of flowed on to the next and so on and so forth?
No, it was a very tricky first 6 months trying to build my own practice, because I didn't really have my own book of clients. I just went out on my own quite suddenly and sort of pushed myself out of the nest. But I think after about 6 months of just, doing a lot of networking, business development, a lot of marketing as well, it's all really just come into place. And now I have lots of clients and lots of interesting engagements. But I think it's just really putting yourself out there. And, not everybody will go with you, and not every connection will result in new business, but you'll find your people, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm really endeared by what you're saying, because we had to do the same thing with our business. No one knew us, so we had to build a following, and you got to have a thick skin when you're a business owner, right? And as much as everyone says they're not in sales, I'll say everyone's in BD. You do obviously have to put your name out there. Did you find that you had to create content or do anything like that as a business owner?
Oh, I did a lot of coffees, a lot of conferences, which I still do, some lunch and learns, some CPDs,
Love that.
just a bunch of different things. But I think, you need to be very persistent, I think, and you need to be able to handle no's.
That's a good point. That's a good point. And we got lots of people, various backgrounds, because I'm on Twitch and TikTok, which is broadcaster whoever, not just the legal professionals on my LinkedIn. The main thing that you probably see is, as you said, people disputes about money and things like that. And I think that what we said offline was there's a barometer in people's mind what they think the property is worth, right? There's one person thinks it's worth this and the other party thinks it's worth that. Is there any nuances that you think that it's probably not worth what anyone thinks? There's always somewhere in the middle, or a general rule of thumb that you go with when you're looking at the value of a property?
Oh, it's really tricky to say, but I will say that value isn't a certain number. I mean, it's sort of in the eye of the beholder. And there's actually a bit of case law relating to value as negligence and
Okay.
our liability. And there's basically a precedent that says reasonable minds can differ within 10%. And if it's a specialized or complex asset, 15%, which is pretty wide, actually. So I think really I find that a lot of people think that their property, their house or their unit is worth more than it is. And I think that it's just a bias. I mean, you like the place that you live in, and you see all of the good things, and you perhaps don't think about the bad things too much. But yeah, I think it is very subjective at the end of the day. But as an expert witness, it's very interesting, because you have to try and, I suppose, sort of not allow yourself to be biased or pushed in one direction.
Well said. Well said. And in terms of free product placement here, Kristy, is it not just apartments and homes you look at? You obviously look at commercial businesses, other assets as well, so people know, oh, I didn't know Kristy did that.
Yeah, so I do all types of commercial property as well. I do stuff for compulsory acquisition, easements, encroachments. I do a lot of family law work. I do a lot of shareholder disputes, loss of profits as well. So yeah, my practice is quite broad and vast.
Fantastic. Well, please reach out to Kristy. She is an absolute legend in the space, a true powerhouse. How would you like to be remembered? Closing the stream up, and we'll come to some bonus questions. When all is said and done, maybe a bit morbid, but I certainly think it's a cathartic question, in my opinion, Kristy. How would you like to be remembered one day, both professionally and personally?
Oh, professionally and personally. Oh, that's a good one. Well, I've actually just put on my first 2 staff members, so I have put a bit of thought to that. But Yeah,
Well
I
done.
think I'd like to be known as being competent, but also reasonable. I mean, I think that in my field, there are a lot of valuers who are very big-headed and they have very big egos, and they sort of dig their heels in and they won't change their opinion. But I'd just like to help people resolve their disputes, essentially. And yeah, I'd just like to be competent and reasonable.
Very good. No, well said there. Well answered, Christine. And congratulations for putting on your first 2 staff members. That's so exciting. It really goes from being that solopreneur to the business owner when you do that, right? Like you're
Yeah.
obviously looking after other people's livelihoods and you're big enough to be able to support that. I think that's fantastic. And before we close off, Faraz Hamoudi, who's a principal solicitor at Circle Bridge Legal. So shout out to Faraz, and he shouted you out before. He said, insightful discussion, Kristy Kerswell. How do you deal with adversarial experts where the conclusion reached is starkly different to the conclusions that you have reached? That's a great question, Faraz, and maybe a nice way to end the podcast.
Well, really, it depends on where the disagreement is, but I just try and make sure that what I'm saying is very much backed up by evidence. So, transactions, looking at the international valuation standards, going to textbooks if I need to, because I think a bad valuation is one which is, I suppose it's just very vibey. I can't think of a better way to put it, but it's just sort of like, I think the value is this, and you haven't really provided detailed reasoning, and it's just you sort of fighting over opinion essentially. So I try and move it from the subjective more so into the technical, and I think that if you disagree with someone and you can have a very firm technical basis for that disagreement, it really stops disputes from, going further. Because I mean, what can you say if they haven't followed the international valuation standards and the leading textbooks in the field? I mean, it's just, there's nowhere to go really. But I think it's very important that valuation expert reports are very defensible. Because I think it actually helps matters settle earlier. For instance, shareholder disputes. I mean, so often it's just about a buyout, essentially. I mean, that's the remedy. That's the way to wrap everything up. And, if you have two sort of vague, ambiguous valuations, then I think that can just keep the dispute going. But if you have a very defensible, very solid report, then, both parties know where they stand, and they can have a better idea of how things might look if it's going to proceed further.
Well said. Well said. Thanks for that question there, Faraz. Connect with Faraz Hamoudi, an absolute legend. And where can people find you, Kristy? Where are you hanging out the most if people want to get in touch, talk to you, or have a bit of a chat?
In my office, usually working on reports. But I am quite active on LinkedIn, and I always reply to my messages there. So very happy to answer any questions that people might have about valuation.
Absolutely. Reach out to Kristy Kerswell from Kerswell Valuation, a superstar. Thank you so much for being on episode 74 there, Kristy. It's been illuminating to say the least.
Thank you for having me.
It's an absolute pleasure. We'll bring you back in just a moment for some bonus questions. And if you are a legend of law or know someone who is, we come out every Wednesday, either talking on our LawLive show, Ledger Legends for accountants, or Finance Live for the wider professional field. Thank you for tuning in. We come out on Apple, Spotify, and wherever you get your podcasts. And this is proudly brought to you by Legal Home Loans, Australia's foremost and premier mortgage broking firm for lawyers and barristers and partners in Australia. And of course, if you get a chance, feel free to check out my new book. The laws are linked in to try and grow your business as well. Cheeky plug there too. But nonetheless, thank you for joining, everyone. Bye for now. Take care. Bringing you back, Kristy, if you could explain your role to a 6-year-old child, how would you go about doing that to make it as simple as possible?
I help people fight over money, and that money is often held in assets. And I suppose sometimes people want those assets to be worth a lot. Sometimes they want them to be worth not so much. So I help them settle those fights.
Very good. Benji, did you understand that? Okay, good. If my 2.5-year-old was here, he'd probably go, yes, Daddy, that makes sense. If you've had a pet, or if you do have a pet, how would they describe you, and what would they say?
That I'm absent. I have a cat. Honestly, I've just been spending so much time in the office over the past year that I haven't seen her too much. So
Absolutely. Like, probably singing that Akon song, Lonely. Poor thing. But
Yeah,
nonetheless.
I think so.
And I love this question. It's certainly one of my favorite questions of the stream. If you could give advice to yourself at any age, what age would you pick? So when would you go back in time to and talk to yourself? And what would you say to the younger version of Kristy Kerswell? I know you've only been on this planet, 22 years. So well, I don't know when you're going to go back.
Actually.
Oh, there you go. Very good.
Yeah.
So when would you go back and speak to yourself?
I think maybe high school, and I wish that I found valuation earlier, honestly, because it's so fascinating. And I think that knowledge compounds. So I would have gone back in time and would have said, look into this. Yeah. But I guess, I don't know, if I think about it, the butterfly effect is probably a bit of a thing, and I wouldn't want to mess with the path that I actually took. So I might not actually give her any advice.
That's a great point. You might have actually just seen yourself and go, you know what? I think she can handle it. Right?
Yeah.
I'm a big believer in that as well there, Kristy, like the multiverse and different things we make. And someone asked me, would you do anything differently? I said this over coffee the other day, and I said the same thing as you. I said, thinking back on it, I probably wouldn't change anything because it would alter everything, and I probably wouldn't have the 2 boys I have now as well. So
absolutely.
A nice thought to end the conference and the podcast, Kristy. Thanks so much again. It's been great chatting to you. And hopefully everyone who's re-listening or re-watching or tuning in gets in contact and has a coffee with you as well. And see where it goes.
Thank you.
My pleasure, everyone. Take care. And we'll be back after some brief intros and exits here. All the best, everyone. Take care. Hey there, Cullen Haynes here, Australia's leading broker for lawyers on LinkedIn, and here's why I want to talk to you today about my book, my new book, The Laws of LinkedIn, 23 ways to find your tribe, build your following, and make 7 figures on LinkedIn. When I started this journey 7 years ago, when we built, myself and Andrew, my business partner, we built legal home loans from the ground up, the pain point for us was we were at a standing start. No one knew who we were. We had no money, we had no contacts, and basically we had to find a way to make our voice heard, talk to our tribe, the legal community, and build trust. And the only thing we had at our disposal was LinkedIn, which was and still is free. There's over 1 billion people on LinkedIn, and I wish when I started, I had this book with me to guide me, because I basically distilled my 23 top leading hacks that we use to build our business to a 7+ figure, and I really want to get it out there and share it with you. So if you're